So this next example is a fun one. So the first startup I ever went to work for was in the personal finance space. It was Mint's biggest competitor. And by all accounts, it was a successful company. We raised VC money. We sold to LendingTree, got acquired, right, which is what you want as a startup. So it was good in a lot of different ways, but I felt bad about our outcomes. Here's what I mean. Well, we did a fantastic job of actually helping people improve their financial situation, but we missed some things. So one of the things we did at Thrive, for example, was to give you a personal finance score, this idea of how are you managing your money? And we didn't want to just replicate the credit score. The problem with the credit score is it really just says, well, if you're rich, you get a high score. If you're poor, you get a low score. That's really all a credit score does most of the time. We want to say, given what you have, how are you doing with it? So an element of the score was savings rate. Absolute dollars, how much you're saving. We said, as a function of your income, how much are you saving? Putting in a saving account and keeping there month over month. And when you look at it that way, as a function of income, women are dramatically better savers than their male counterparts, right? As a percentage of their income, their percentage of savings rate is much higher. The problem is when you remove that denominator, when you say, hey, I'm no longer going to consider income on a raw dollar basis, men are saving much more. Why? Well, because women are underpaid. It varies by ethnicity. Latin women are underpaid by about 50%. White American women somewhere in the 15% range. Black American women somewhere in the 35% negative range. So there's huge pay gaps between women across the spectrum in ethnicity and their male counterparts. This is a really big problem. And at Thrive, and most sites of that type, we only really look at what happens after you earn your money. So we didn't do enough to push upstream. So we decided, hey, at our next company, we're going to do something about this. So Avi and I had broken out, formed another company called Churnless, founded something. And so one of the things we built was something called GetRaised. And so this is the story of how we got to GetRaised. We knew what we wanted, right? We want women to get paid fairly. Now, like many things in behavioral science, you're going to fail forward a lot. And so just as we failed at Thrive, we failed forward into GetRaised. But even GetRaised was a failure, right? Because of the behavioral statement that we picked. We figured out one of the ways to close the gender wage gap was to get women to ask for and get raises. Noble, we thought. But it sort of ignores the basic premise that which is what you really need to do is get people to pay people fairly in the first place. We need women to get paid fairly in the first place. The real behavior that we need to change is that of compensation managers and other folks who are making these decisions, who are often men, in order to pay women fairly in the first place. But, live and learn. You continue to fail forward. And this is the story of that second failure, the failure forward from Thrive. So, we know we want women who want to be paid fairly to ask for and get raises. Now, the key insight here really comes from the always and never category. We looked at the difference between people who always ask for raises, women who always ask for raises, and women who typically didn't ask for raises. And what we found was there wasn't a strong difference in promoting pressure. This is really not surprising. For those of you that are watching that female identifying, most of you probably want to be paid fairly. I've been doing this for a rather long time. I haven't met women who said to me, oh yeah, I'm comfortable with the gender wage gap. That's fine with me. So it's probably not a promoting pressure problem. It's an inhibiting pressure problem. The always women felt differently about asking. They had different experiences. They'd been coached, etc. It was easier for them to ask than the never women. So what we need to go after is all of these pressures that are inhibiting pressures. So what do? We eventually are going to go build a software product, but we don't want to go there first. That's a lot of effort, right? And we don't want to scale before we have some evaluation. So our pilot, I literally just went on social media and said, hey, do you think you're underpaid? Let me help you ask for a raise. And I did all of the work, the coaching manually, right? I helped people figure out, hey, how do you articulate the advances that you've made at your business? How are you telling your boss that you have brought new business value? How are you showing them market rates, right? Are we collecting data from open job postings? Are we looking at government data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics? What are we looking at to give an idea of market? And then how do we tell them where you're going? Because those are three really important inhibiting pressures. We need to tell them what you've done, where you're going, and the money in the market. But those are those are hard. They take effort, right? I have to think about those things. I have to structure them. I have to format. So I started coaching people through doing this. We did this with about 50 women, and we had a pretty good success rate of helping women ask for and get raises. And then, only then, right, when we started to see, yes, I can change these pressures, and yes, I'm able to actually go get women, then we started coding. And then that resulted in a tool we called GetRaised, which over the sort of 10 years or so that it was up, about 80% of the women that handed in this letter that we helped them generate got a raise. The product itself was relatively simple. It was really just a sort of calculator, ask you questions like, where do you work? How long have you worked there? And then it would actually go do all that legwork for you. It would help you figure out how to structure what benefits that you're bringing to the company and where you're going, and think growth plans and those sorts of things. And it would go get all the market data and tell you, hey, are you underpaid? And help you understand that and package it in a way. And it resulted in a letter that you could give to your boss, like a Mad Lib. There's a template letter. You answer these questions that fill in different sentences, and then you could give that letter to your boss to ask for a raise. So about 80% of the women who handed in the letter got a raise. The average raise is about $7,000. And over the 10 years, we helped women earn about $4 billion in raises. Why? Because we were really deliberate. We knew what we wanted. We understood the promoting and inhibiting pressures at play. We went after those inhibiting pressures really specifically. And then we, evaluated a pilot manual, just one person doing this coaching, just doing this on our team, the two founders. We didn't ask our team to do anything, code anything, design anything. It was just the two of us as founders making these calls, having these conversations. And then, and only then, did we go on to build something. And that had massive impact for not that much effort off the build once we understood where we were going and why it worked and where we want to go with it.